fornication. For an occasion like this, there are always lots of people who put in a lot of work, and there are a lot of thanks to be given out. Fortunately, the preceding speech makers have done all of that for me, so I'll thank them. You won't hear my speech, but that looks like the way we'll do it. A couple of people who perhaps haven't been mentioned, who made this whole event possible, and that's John's mum and dad, who unfortunately couldn't be with us, and of course Anna's mum and dad. Thank you very much, even though not everybody could be here. Also, a big thank you to all the bridesmaids, Christina and Andrea. Thank you very much. So you've been tucking into the buffet already, Andrea. They've done a great job looking after Anna today, and keeping her away from John Friday night and being a calming influence today. You've done a really good job, thank you. Today is indeed a sad day for the men of Western Australia. You finally lost out on the chance to hook up with a lady of Anna's formidable intellectual talents, head for figures, keen itinerary skills, and long legs. For the women of Western Australia, it's just another day. Also, a big thank you to people who've travelled a very long way to be here today. Thank you for being here. And also to everybody else who came along. You've all put quite a bit of effort into being here today and dressing up, and well, I presume you're all dressed up. I don't see people like you out on the streets of Western Australia too much. And of course the weather was great. Don't really thank for that, but it's pretty good. And the last on this list of thanks is to John. Thank you very much for asking me to be your best man. It really is an honour, and I appreciate it, and hopefully you're not regretting it. There comes a time in every man's life when he meets that special someone who flavours their life like a bit of garlic in the bottom of that bottle of expensive oil you bought from that Ponzi winery up the road. For John, that was me. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about John. Not too much. John and me go back about 20 years. I first met him in 1989. We were still just about teenagers, I think, in a classroom in a small town called Bury St Edmunds in England. As I walked into the room, I can see him now. He was sitting in the classroom with his arm draped over the back of an orange plastic chair, with his legs wide apart in that mid-80s come hither look. He had his bouffant hair, sort of largely inspired by George Michael. Nobody had tweeted about George then. We hadn't in Bury St Edmunds. This look was working so well for him on that day that the only place for me to sit were in the seats on either side of him. So John, I was forced to sit next to you that day, fateful day. There was that blonde in the corner as well. I much preferred her, but no, it was you. So here I am today. I might also mention that there were a few other things that I didn't know about John at that time. What's my face now? Where is it? Okay. There was a lime green Mark IV Ford Cortina. Yeah. Oh yeah. It had a big black arrow painted down the middle of the bonnet, and the words on the licence plate, in small type, it's quite classy, were "John, licensed to thrill."
Oh my God!
It also had one of those rear grill louver things on the back of, bolted onto the back of the window of this Ford Cortina, which ostensibly is to stop the strong sunlight fading your rear shelf, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, is a great help in the United Kingdom. The other thing I remember about John from those days was an untiring desire to be the centre of attention, which I think Anna might have realised by now is quite a strong streak in him. I'm a little surprised you're not doing your own best man speech. Anyway, the remainder of that year I spent in the classroom with John was, John spent entertaining the class with what we all thought at the time were pithy little one-liners, amusing little visual gags that made the time simply fly past. So much so that 20 years on, Dave, your history tutor, remembers you as John the Loud One. I don't remember what our grades were. I don't know whether you did. No?
They were great.
Yeah. So over the following years, John decided his sociology degree was the ideal qualification to get a job selling furniture. However, it only took him a few months to realise, in typically John fashion, that he could do better than, I'll just call them Company X. And I seem to remember you telling a story of sort of throwing the money at them one day and storming out. So he told them where to go, and he started his own business and wheeling and dealing his way up and down most of England from a small fleet of white vans. And after a wee while, he moved into an old pea factory, and that's a small round green places where the furniture business kept him very busy, and as well as doing all of this, he had the whole Get Fit thing kicking off. And I particularly remember 2002, the Bupa Great North Run. Ran it with John, and I spent my time wheezing and gasping my way around the entire course while he chatted to his mates on his mobile phone and gave them running tips. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you, John, but when you told me I should try rubbing Vaseline onto my nipples and groin, I thought you were just being kinky.
I was.
I first heard of Anna when John came and stayed with us on the mainland, or New Zealand, as I like to call it. He sold his business and he was a man of leisure, spending his time on his fitness and turning into the buff man we all know as John now. He told me how he met this Aussie girl and how they'd really clicked. There was a lot of talk about sitting on each other's laps, although he didn't talk to me about the lap muscle. To be honest, at first I didn't pay too much attention, but he kept talking about this Anna, and after a while I realised here was someone he thought was really special. I know that he was worried that his stay in New Zealand so soon after he met this great girl would put the fire of passion out, and John is not the sort of guy to let a few thousand miles put him off. So every night, and I mean every night he was with us, he would tuck himself out of the way and spend 1 or 2 hours, sometimes more, on the phone, chatting her up. Now, of course, I wish I'd listened in, so I have something embarrassing to tell you. But at the time, I thought discretion would be a more hospitable way to go, and I left them to it. But I was struck by how much they must have to talk about. John and Anna, you are actually the reason we got broadband. Now, chatting on the phone is all right, but it's no compensation for the real thing, and John seemed a little sad that his young lady was so far away. He became desolate and was going downhill fast. During his separation from Anna, he stopped running, he stopped going to the gym, and he was wasting away before our very eyes. We all thought this was the end. We upped his iron intake, forced gallons of orange juice down him, but to no avail. Buff man was lovesick, and there seemed nothing could be done. Eventually, he went to the doctor, and it turned out he had bronchitis.